Welcome to a fresh episode of Platypod Perspectives, where each time around, we look at an amazing image like this one. You will not believe what this actually is and where it came from, but I can tell you who it came from. Her name is Rain Hayes. Rain, thank you so much for joining us today. And we appreciate you sharing. We appreciate you sharing this great image. And I want to talk to you a little bit about it. This came out of a challenge from Larry T for food photography for non-food photographers, right?
That's right. I was actually super excited about this challenge. It's something I wanted to work with for a while, and this challenge was a perfect opportunity to get into the insides of fruits and plants and things like that when I normally photograph the outside. So I was very excited to be part of that.
Okay, so tell people what this image actually is.
This is a slice of lime.
Wow. I have never seen lime like that before. And it has to do with your type of photography that we talked about last time you were on, right?
That's right. I'm working with UV light. So this is technically called ultraviolet induced visible fluorescence, or UV IVF. We often just refer to it as UV photography, even though that's not technically totally accurate, but it's okay. We know what we're talking about.
And what camera did you use for this?
I use a Canon R5. You really can use any normal camera with UV light. If folks are familiar with some of my other work working in the infrared, you know that for infrared, you need to use a modified camera and some special filters. You don't need any of that for UV. You can use any unmodified camera, no filter needed. You can even use your phone camera, though those are typically not the best quality. You can still get some results with that type of camera as well.
Can you talk a little bit about your process? I know, because you and I talked a little bit before we started this show, that there's some process to this in experimenting and working with this type of project. And I think that'll help people a little bit if they understand not, the camera settings and which exact light you used and all those kinds of things, but more the experimentation part of things.
This is a very experimental medium. And what I mean by that is there is no way to predict which objects or subjects are going to look good under UV light. Some things absolutely glow. You get this fluorescent quality. The colors are really wild and like purples and pinks and blues. Other things look very dull, like they're just absorbing all of the light and the color is horrible and you would never want to take a photo of it. There's really no way to tell. So it's important that you are open to experimenting. When I was working with this food challenge, I went to the produce department and I picked out a huge array of things that I thought might be really interesting. And some of them that I really expected would be super cool, like the inside of a fig, were just not good, not interesting, not beautiful. And other things that I thought would be pretty meh were stunning. I took a picture of a cross section of a pepper, and the pepper was like teal and bright pink. It was so beautiful. And then these citrus fruits that I worked with, including this lime, turned out to be really interesting as well. And so you really just have to find each subject and move on quickly if you don't like it and try something else. It's not you. Don't take it personally. It's not a failure. You're just working through the list of things to see what is going to work for you. And if I can say one more thing about this, even if something doesn't work for you this time and you think it's horrible looking, you may want to revisit it again in the future. I found multiple times that something that I thought was a complete throwaway looked more interesting or different to me at a later time. So you can kind of circle back through subjects you've already been through and just keep that experimentation going, even over ground that you've already visited.
That's so consistent with what I do when I take classes. So when you've done Kelby 1 classes, when I take a Kelby 1 class about a certain type of photography or using a particular lighting setup or something like that, I'll do it, then I try to apply it, and then I go back and rewatch that class. So it sounds like that same kind of thing. You're experimenting with something, and even if you're not happy with it at first, you're learning, and then you go back and check that out again, try it again, and see if you don't continue to learn. How long did you experiment with the fruit for the food challenge?
I probably did all of these images over about 2 days. Working with UV, you're generally going to be working with live subjects, plants, flowers, fruits and vegetables, things that go bad quickly or just start to change and break down almost right away. So you do need to work sort of quickly, and if something gets a little wilted or not fresh, then you just need to go and probably grab a new one out of the refrigerator or out of your garden or whatever. You can't really start with too many subjects at one time because of that degradation process. You really need to, I usually find that I want to spend a good long time getting to know a subject, and I might work with it for a couple of hours. And in that case, I can only really manage to work with a couple of subjects in the course of a day. So, luckily, fruits and vegetables aren't super expensive and you can keep the other half in the fridge or whatever. But I had to work with all of these different subjects to at least kind of narrow down what I was looking for and what I thought would be interesting. So sometimes what I'll do is just take a few quick images of different subjects, maybe just holding it in or putting it on the counter or something like that, just to see what it's going to look like on camera and evaluate whether I think it has potential for a more serious little photo shoot. And that way you can sort of narrow down what your choices are and figure out where you want to work for that session.
Sounds like a good process that you've developed over time. And it seems like it would apply to a lot of different things. A lot of people, we just want to take a class and get it done. I want to be done with that picture in 10 minutes. So I'm going to take a class. And you have the different approach. You're discovering it and then finding things out and then sharing them on classes like Kelby 1 or telling people about things on your website. And that's how I want to wrap things up. How can people find out more about you? Where can they see your work and learn from you?
Well, thanks for asking, Larry. Folks can go to my website, rainhayes.com. I'm also on all of the usual social media channels like Instagram at miss_rain. But my website is where I really try to share my new work and writing and keep things up to date.
Rain Hayes, thank you so much for spending time with us again today and sharing this very interesting image. I'm going to call this Living in the Limelight. That is an awesome, awesome image. Thank you so much for sharing with us today, letting people know a little bit about your process and hopefully inspiring people to take some time and experiment and be patient with yourself as you're learning through this process.
Thank you so much for having me. It's always great to talk with you, and I love getting a chance to talk with your audience.
Very good. Thanks again, Rain. Well, it was another wonderful show. I love when Rain comes on and you see things that you don't see from other photographers. She has some very unique approaches to things. And I hope that you're inspired to try some things, to spend some time experimenting. And I hope that you've learned a little bit, but definitely go to Rain's website and check out some of her additional work. It's been a lot of fun for me. I encourage you to come back again when we have another Perspectives episode because you never know what you're about to learn.